Hi guys, it's Mrs. Right here, checking in with you for the day. So you probably have figured out that I record my chapter the day before I put it up. So today is actually Tuesday, but you won't see this till Wednesday. So today was Crazy Sock Day, and I don't know if you can see it, but my dog is on my socks. So trying to participate, wearing Miss Cabelli's Hoops for Heart shirt here too. So today, chapter 13 is called A Wagon Load of Hope. And in our last chapter, Samuel Reed came to the rescue of Homer. So let's find out what happens to all of our runaway slaves, Stink and Smelt and Homer and Samuel and Jebediah Brewster. Let's find out. Chapter 13 is called A Wagon Load of Hope. The first swing drops Stink like a bag of smelly potatoes. He's out cold, not moving. If I was Ebenezer Smelt and saw what happened to my partner, I'd hightail it and run for my life. But old Smelt decides to stand his ground. "Put down that weapon," he screams. "You're my lawful prisoner." Smelt drops into a fighting crouch, jabbing away with those big blades, looking for an opening, but he can't get close enough to Samuel Reed to poke him with the knife. Reed doesn't say a word. He just swings that heavy iron bar like it was a twig. The hiss of it cutting the air sounds like a cold steel snake eager to strike. "You'll hang for this," Smelt promises, but he's starting to sound a little afraid. Samuel Reed takes careful aim, and when Smelt gets too close, the iron bar smacks his hand and the knife goes flying into the dark. Smelt scrambles after it, cursing and screaming, and the iron bar catches him hard in the butt, knocking him down flat. When he tries to sit up, big mistake. Mr. Reed whomps him in the head and his eyes roll white and he falls back unconscious. Then a strange thing happens. Samuel Reed drops like an iron bar is burning his hands and covers his eyes and starts to weep. "But you won," I tell him, confused. "You got him good." Mr. Reed takes a deep breath and stops sobbing. "I was a dead man," he said in a husky voice. "Dead man has nothing to lose, nothing to be feared of. Now I'm back among the living and scared to death about what'll happen next. Does that make sense? Only thing makes sense is taking care of those two villains before they wake up and try to kill us. Reed helps me get the rope off my wrists and use it to lash Stink and Smelt together, hands behind their back. Seems like Samuel Reed has lost all his strength, and it's up to me to make sure the knots are good and tight. When we're done, we start the long walk back to Mr. Brewster's house. Samuel Reed has started to limp from his efforts and has to lean on me for support. "Used up everything I had," he explains, panting. "No food for 3 days and precious little water." "How'd you manage to get free?" I ask him. "Jebediah found me in the woods," he said. "You told him about me, and he had a good notion of where to look. Knows these lands like the back of his hand, does Jebediah." "Why'd you follow us here to this old mine?" I wanted to know. "Why not take the fugitives and go?" Reed shrugs. "That's what I first thought to do, get away as quick as I could. But then I thought about how these two men would follow us and how you would have helped me out of the woods." "I didn't do much," I say. "It was enough," said Reed, patting the top of my head. "They'd have killed me if you hadn't convinced them I was worth more alive." "Then we're even, 'cause you saved my life too. I was a goner for sure." As we walk along following the wagon ruts in the dark of the moonless night, Mr. Reed starts to recover a little of his strength. He wipes the last tears from his eyes and says it will be a busy night. There is much to do. "How long will it take for the fugitives to get away?" I ask. "We leave tonight," Mr. Reed explains. 2 or 3 days to reach the border if the weather holds." "And will you lead them?" "That's what I do," he says. The warm glow of the lanterns in the Brewster house guides us when we finally limp back into the yard. Holding each other up, there are 2 wagons in the driveway, each with a team of horses, sorting and pawing at the ground as if eager to get moving. The fugitives who had been hiding in the basement are climbing into the wagon, carrying their few belongings and huddling together. I never seen such a mournful group. You'd think they were on their way to a funeral instead of freedom. Mrs. Bean is the first to see us coming out of the darkness. There they are, she cries, alive, both of them. The fugitives swarm from the wagon, whooping out with joy. They grab a hold of Samuel Reed and clap him on the back, and then lift him up and carry him to the wagon. Everybody's crying and laughing at the same time, joyous to have their hero back among the living. Amazing how fast the funeral turns into a welcome home party, and how Mr. Reed seems to draw even more strength from his friends, until he looks as strong as he did when he was swinging that iron bar. Hush now, he orders them, grinning. You'll wake the whole county. Into the wagons. Quickly, quickly, make haste. We must be miles from here before dawn. A few minutes later, they're on their way back into the wagons, ready to go. All those faces full of hope. Even the babies have stopped crying and burbled happily in their mother's arms. Samuel Reed climbs into the wagon seat of the first wagon and takes the reins. Jebediah Brewster steps forward, holding a lantern. He shakes Mr. Reed's hand and says, Godspeed and God bless. I'll await word that thee are safely across the border before releasing Mr. Smelt and his associate. Mr. Reed snaps the reins and the wagon rumbles out of the long drive and slowly melts away into the night. Seems like this would be a good time for me to slip away, too, see if I can locate Bob the horse and be on my way. Every minute I was there is a minute closer to the war for my big brother Harold. But when I turn to go, Mrs. Bean sweeps me up in her plump arms and hugs me and smothers my face with icky kisses. Never thought a boy could be so good and a liar too. But you are, she says. You are. So, last week we did a lesson on the Underground Railroad, and this is basically exactly that. This is the Underground Railroad. Jebediah Brewster is has a station. His house is a safe house for fugitive slaves to hide in when they are on the run. Samuel Reed is a conductor. He is escorting them from place to place to place. So they are considered passengers on the Underground Railroad. So you remember that the Underground Railroad is not underground, it's secret. And underground is another name for secret. Railroad is simply code for the way they talk about the different places that the slaves will stop, stations and conductors and passengers and packages and things like that. That way, just the regular person hearing them talk like this won't have any idea what they're talking about. It was a very risky job. It was very dangerous. The people who were holding runaway slaves in their home could be subject to jail, be hanged, all kinds of things for keeping fugitives. So it was very dangerous. So Jebediah Brewster has shown Homer that he is kind but fierce at the same time. He's not going to put up with anything. He just does it in a very mild-mannered way, which is pretty interesting. So that's all for today. Be back tomorrow. I hope y'all are enjoying some time with your family, even if you all are in the house. Do something fun. I think I'm going to go paint. I need to do something different right now. I've cleaned out closets and done other stuff, so I think I'm going to paint. Anyway, it's supposed to be beautiful the rest of the week, so do some work in the morning and get outside and play, okay? I miss you. Love you. Bye.